Days before my 25th birthday, I knew my golden child sister would fake a massive emergency to make my parents abandon me. So I set a trap that blew my toxic family wide open and cost her everything. I always knew. Days before my 25th birthday, I knew my golden child brother would fake a massive emergency to make my parents abandon me. So I set a trap that blew my toxic family wide open and cost him everything. I always knew my brother, Blake, would try to sabotage my 25th birthday. He had done it for every single milestone I've ever had, but this time I was ready for him. And the trap I set didn't just expose his vicious narcissistic lies. It permanently destroyed the toxic family dynamic I had been trapped in for 2.5 decades. To understand the sheer magnitude of what went down last weekend, you have to understand what my childhood was. I am 25 years old, a female, and the classic scapegoat of my family. My younger brother, Blake, who is 22, is the textbook definition of a golden child. For as long as I can remember, the sun rose and set on Blake. If I got an A on a test, my parents would pat my shoulder. If Blake managed to get a C-, they would take him out for steak dinner to celebrate his hard work. But it went so much deeper than just favoritism. Blake has an absolute pathological obsession with being the center of attention. If the spotlight is on someone else for even a fraction of a second, he genuinely goes into a tailspin. And my parents, they are his ultimate enablers. They will move heaven and earth to soothe his manufactured crises, completely disregarding my feelings, my boundaries, and my life in the process. Let me give you a quick highlight reel of my ruined milestones. For my sweet 16th birthday, I had planned a modest sleepover with 5 of my closest friends. We were going to make pizzas and watch movies. 3 hours before my friends were supposed to arrive, Blake, who was 13 at the time, threw a massive tantrum because he wasn't allowed to invite his own friends to my party. When my parents gently told him no, he suddenly developed a mysterious, blinding stomach pain. He screamed, he cried, he rolled on the floor. My parents panicked, canceled my party entirely, kicked my friends out the moment they arrived at the door, and rushed Blake to the ER. 8 hours later, they returned. The doctors found absolutely nothing wrong with him. He had gas. Did I get an apology? No. I got yelled at by my mother for being insensitive and selfish for crying over a canceled party when my brother was in the hospital. For my high school graduation, Blake claimed he was having a severe panic attack because his high school girlfriend had broken up with him that morning. My parents stayed home to console him. I walked across the stage and looked out into the audience only to find empty seats where my family was supposed to be. I took an Uber home alone in my cap and gown. And for my college graduation, Blake stood up in the middle of our family celebratory dinner at a nice restaurant, clinked his glass, and announced his girlfriend was pregnant. My parents wept with joy. The entire restaurant applauded, and my graduation was completely forgotten. The kicker? She wasn't pregnant. 2 weeks later, he claimed she'd had a false positive on the test, but the damage was done. He had successfully stolen my moment. So, fast forward to this year. I was turning 25. For the past 3 years, I had been working my absolute tail off in software sales. I make very good money now. I live in a beautiful apartment 3 hours away from my hometown, and I have built an amazing, chosen family of friends. Because I am financially independent and doing well, my parents have recently been trying to worm their way back into my life. My mother in particular has been laying on the guilt trips thick, crying on the phone about how much she misses her firstborn and how she wants us to be a close-knit family again. Against my better judgment, I decided to give them one last chance. For my 25th birthday, I rented a massive, breathtaking 4-story luxury cabin in Lake Tahoe for an entire week. The place was stunning. It had a hot tub overlooking the mountains, a massive wraparound deck, a game room, and enough bedrooms for 15 of my closest friends. The rental cost me just over $5,000, paid entirely out of my own pocket. When I told my mother about the trip, she practically begged to come. She promised that she and my father would drive up on Thursday evening, the night before my actual birthday, and host a massive, expensive BBQ for me and all my friends. They insisted on paying for all the food and alcohol for the entire weekend as a way of making up for past mistakes. I looked my mother dead in the eyes, over FaceTime, and laid out my boundary. I said, "Mom, I will invite you and Dad, but listen to me very carefully. If Blake creates a crisis and you ditch me for him again, we are done. I will block your numbers, and you will not hear from me for the rest of your lives. I mean it. This is your absolute last chance." My mother cried. She swore up and down, swearing on her own life that nothing would stop them from being there. She told me Blake wasn't invited, which Blake already knew, and that they had already told him they were going to be unreachable that weekend. I wanted to believe her. I really did, but I am not an idiot. I knew Blake. The moment Blake found out my parents were driving up to Lake Tahoe to spend a weekend celebrating me, throwing me a party, and spending money on me, I knew the countdown had begun. Blake's ego physically cannot process the idea of my parents prioritizing me over him. I knew with absolute terrifying certainty that he was going to pull something massive. So, I prepared. I didn't just sit back and wait to be victimized. I went on the offensive. First, I looked into Blake's life to see what he had going on that weekend. It didn't take long to figure it out. Through a mutual acquaintance on Instagram, I discovered that Blake had been dying to go to a massive 3-day Coachella-style music festival down in Southern California. He had been whining for months about wanting VIP tickets, which were ridiculously expensive. Second, I enlisted the help of 2 people. The first was my Aunt Judy. Aunt Judy is my dad's older sister, and she is the only person in my extended family who sees right through Blake's nonsense. Judy is a tough, no-nonsense charge nurse at the main general hospital in my hometown. She has always hated how my parents treat me. The second person I enlisted was my best friend Marcus. Marcus is a social butterfly, an absolute legend, and as fate would have it, he and a group of his friends were actually flying down to attend that exact same music festival in Southern California. I told them both my suspicions. I told Aunt Judy, if my mom calls me and claims Blake is in the hospital, I need you to verify it immediately. Judy agreed in a heartbeat. I told Marcus, if you see Blake at that festival, I need 4K undeniable video evidence. Marcus laughed and said, say less, I'm on it. With my trap set, I packed my bags, drove up to Lake Tahoe on Wednesday, and welcomed my friends as they started arriving. The cabin was even more beautiful in person. The vibes were immaculate. Then came Thursday evening, the night before my 25th birthday. My parents were supposed to be arriving at the cabin around 8 p.m. to start marinating the meat and prepping for the Big Friday BBQ. At 6:30 p.m., my phone rang. It was my mother. I walked out onto the balcony, the crisp mountain air hitting my face, and pressed accept. I didn't even say hello. I just waited. OP? My mother's voice was shaking. She was full-on hyperventilating, sobbing into the receiver. OP, honey, I am so sorry. A cold, familiar numbness washed over me. What happened, Mom? It's your brother, she wailed, blowing her nose loudly into the phone. Blake was in a terrible accident. A hit-and-run, OP. His car was T-boned at an intersection. The police said the other driver just sped off. His car is completely totaled. He's at Memorial Hospital right now. They think his leg is fractured in 2 places, and he has a concussion. We have to go to him. He's terrified. He is all alone, and he's crying for us. I stood there looking out over the pine trees, feeling a sickening mix of rage and validation. I forced my voice to sound tight and panicked. Oh my God, Mom, is he okay? Who is his doctor? Is he in the ICU? He's in the ER waiting for an orthopedic consult, my dad chimed in. He must have been on speakerphone from the driver's seat. We're already on the highway heading south to get to him. OP, we feel terrible about missing your birthday, but you have to understand. Your brother could have died. He needs us. I understand, I said, my voice dripping with fake empathy. But Mom, what about the food? What about the BBQ? My mother's tone instantly shifted from hysterical to defensive and irritated. OP, really? Your brother is lying in a hospital bed with a broken leg and you're worried about hamburgers? You are 25 years old. You can buy your own food. We took the money we were going to use for your party and transferred it to Blake's account to help cover his insurance deductible. We'll make it up to you, we promise. But right now, this is a family emergency. Please try not to be selfish for once. Selfish for once. Those words echoed in my head. I didn't yell. I didn't scream. I just smiled a cold, hard smile. Okay, Mom, I said softly. Drive safe. Tell Blake I hope he gets exactly what he deserves. I hung up the phone. I immediately dialed Aunt Judy. She answered on the second ring. Aunt Judy, are you at the hospital? I'm at the nurse's station right now, honey. What's the word? Mom just called. Claims Blake was in a hit and run. Says he's at Memorial with a broken leg and a concussion. Waiting on an ortho consult. I heard Aunt Judy aggressively typing on her keyboard. There was silence for about 30 seconds. Then I heard her let out a sharp, cynical bark of laughter. Oh, this is rich, Aunt Judy said. OP, I am looking at the ER census right now. Blake is not here. He hasn't been admitted. He hasn't been triaged. He's not in the waiting room. Furthermore, I just asked the charge nurse who handles EMS trauma incoming. There hasn't been a hit-and-run accident reported in this county in the last 48 hours. Are you absolutely sure? I asked, my heart pounding with adrenaline. I am staring at the master database, OP. Your brother is not in this hospital. He is not in any hospital in this network. Thanks, Judy, I said. Stand by. I hung up and opened my text messages. I texted Marcus. Me, the eagle has left the nest. Mom says Blake is in the hospital with a broken leg. You see anything? For 3 agonizing hours, I heard nothing. I went back inside, played games with my friends, drank some wine, and pretended everything was fine. My friends who know all about my family trauma were incredibly supportive. We ordered massive amounts of pizza and wings to replace the BBQ my parents had bailed on. At 9:45 p.m., my phone buzzed. It was a video file from Marcus. I opened it, my hands shaking slightly. The video was shot from a VIP balcony at the music festival in Southern California. The bass from the concert was booming in the background. The camera zoomed in on a group of guys in the VIP pit, and there he was, Blake. He was wearing a sleeveless neon tank top, knee-high combat boots, and a glowing LED headband. He had a massive margarita in one hand and a glowing wand in the other. He was jumping up and down, moshing against some guy, laughing hysterically, and throwing his head back. He looked radiant. He looked healthy, and both of his legs were carrying his weight perfectly fine as he danced his heart out. There was a second text from Marcus. Marcus, broken leg, huh? Looks like a miracle recovery to me. Want me to go say hi? Me. No, let him party. Send me everything you can. Over the next hour, Marcus sent me 4 more videos and over a dozen crystal clear photos of Blake living his absolute best life at the festival. I saved every single one of them to a folder on my phone titled The Finale. Meanwhile, my parents had arrived at Blake's empty apartment. They texted me in a panic. Mom, OP, we are at Blake's. We went to the hospital, and they said he isn't there. there. They have no record of him. We are terrified. What if he gave them a fake name? What if he wandered off with a concussion? Your father is calling the police. I replied, oh my gosh, Mom, that is terrifying. Keep searching. Have you checked his social media? Mom, he hasn't posted anything. We are sick with worry. Please pray for your brother. Of course he hadn't posted anything. Blake wasn't stupid. He knew he couldn't post from a festival while claiming to be in a hospital, but he didn't account for me having eyes on the ground. I let my parents sweat it out for another 2 hours. I let them call the police. I let them file a missing persons report. I let them endure the exact same agonizing anxiety they had put me through time and time again. I sat in my hot tub under the Tahoe stars sipping champagne, completely at peace. At midnight, exactly as the clock struck 12, ushering in my 25th birthday, I decided it was time to drop the nuclear bomb. I opened WhatsApp and created a new group chat. I added my mother, my father, Blake, Aunt Judy, my grandparents, Mom's parents, and my uncle, Dad's brother. I named the chat Blake's Medical Updates. My mother immediately sent a message in the chat. "Okay, why are you making a group chat right now? We are dealing with an active police situation. Your brother is missing." I took a deep breath and I uploaded the first video Marcus sent me, the one of Blake jumping in his combat boots. Then I uploaded the second video. Then I uploaded 5 4K photos of him downing shots at the VIP bar. The group chat went dead silent for a full 3 minutes. I could see the little read receipts popping up as everyone in the family opened the media. Then I typed out my message. I had been drafting it in my notes app all evening. Mom and Dad, for 25 years, I have watched you bend over backwards to accommodate every single lie, manipulation, and tantrum Blake has ever thrown. You have missed every milestone of my life to cater to his delusions. Tonight was the final test. I gave you one rule. Don't let him sabotage my 25th birthday. But once again, the moment he snapped his fingers, you abandoned me, stole the money you promised to use for my birthday dinner, and ran to his rescue. As you can see from these time-stamped videos taken less than 2 hours ago, Blake was never in a car accident. He doesn't have a broken leg. He is currently raging at a music festival in Southern California using the medical deductible money you sent him to buy VIP drinks. He lied to you so you would abandon me on my birthday, and he played you for absolute fools. Aunt Judy checked the hospital logs hours ago. She knew Blake wasn't there. I knew Blake wasn't there. The only people who didn't know were the 2 enablers who were too blind to see that their golden child is a manipulative sociopath. I am done. This was your last chance, and you failed spectacularly. Do not call me, do not text me. Enjoy your weekend searching for a son who doesn't respect you enough to tell you the truth. Happy 25th birthday to me. I hit send. The fallout was instantaneous and apocalyptic. Aunt Judy replied in the chat immediately. I can confirm. I checked the logs at Memorial. OP is telling the truth. You two are pathetic for believing this boy over your own flesh and blood. My grandfather, who is incredibly old school and strict, sent a voice memo that was literally just him screaming at my father, calling him a disgrace and demanding to know why they gave Blake money without seeing a doctor's bill. My phone started ringing off the hook. First my mom, then my dad. I declined both calls. Then Blake's phone must have started blowing up because he suddenly appeared in the group chat. Blake. WTF is this? OPYOUAREAPSYCHO stalker. I can explain everything. My friend got THE tickets at last minute and I was scared to tell Mom and Dad. I replied, you told them you were in a hit and run and had a broken leg, Blake. Have a fun hangover. Then I did the most satisfying thing I have ever done in my entire 25 years of existence. I blocked my mother. I blocked my father. I blocked Blake. I blocked them on WhatsApp, iMessage, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. I even blocked their email addresses. I completely severed the cord. I turned off my phone, walked back into the living room of the cabin, and was greeted by 15 of my friends holding up tequila shots and singing happy birthday. We partied until 4 a.m. It was without a shadow of a doubt the greatest night of my life. Over the next few days, the drama continued to unfold, but I was entirely insulated from it. Aunt Judy called me on Sunday to give me the debrief. Apparently, after I dropped the videos in the chat, my dad absolutely lost his mind. For the first time in his life, he didn't coddle Blake. The humiliation of having the entire extended family see how badly they were manipulated finally snapped him out of his fog. He and my mom drove down to Southern California, showed up at the gates of the music festival the next morning, and literally waited by Blake's car in the parking lot. When Blake stumbled out of the festival on Saturday afternoon, high as a kite and hungover, my dad confronted him. He demanded the money back immediately. Blake threw a massive tantrum in the parking lot, screaming that I ruined his life and that it wasn't fair. He refused to give the money back, claiming he had already spent most of it on VIP upgrades and merch. My parents cut him off financially on the spot. My dad took his car keys, since the car was technically in his name, and left him stranded in the festival parking lot. He had to call his friends to come get him. My mother tried to bypass my block by using a different phone number to call me on Monday morning as I was packing up to leave Tahoe. She left a sobbing voicemail, begging for my forgiveness, saying that she sees the truth now, that Blake needs serious psychiatric help, and that they want to take me out for a redo birthday dinner anywhere I want. No expenses spared. She said, "You were right, Oki. We failed you. We see it now. Please, please let us make it up to you. We are not speaking to your brother right now. We choose you." I listened to the voicemail as I drove down the mountain, the stunning blue waters of Lake Tahoe fading in my rearview mirror. I didn't call her back. I just deleted the voice voicemail and blocked that number too. It's been a week since the trip. My extended family is entirely on my side. My grandparents have rewritten their will to exclude Blake entirely. My parents are currently in family therapy, trying to figure out how they created such a monster, and Blake is aggressively posting on TikTok about how he is a victim of narcissistic family abuse because he doesn't have a free car anymore. As for me, I am sitting in my peaceful, quiet apartment, drinking my morning coffee and looking at the beautiful photos from my 25th birthday trip. I feel lighter than I have in 25 years. I finally cut out the cancer that was my toxic family. I don't need their redo dinners, and I don't need their apologies. I have my friends, I have my career, and most importantly, I finally have my peace. Sometimes setting a trap isn't about catching the rat. It's about proving to everyone else that the house is infested so you can finally pack your bags and move out guilt-free. And that's exactly what I did.